Mariluz Cook here, now joined by the newly named 33rd head coach of Montana State football, Coach Brent Vigen. So I want to start off going back to 2010 when you were with North Dakota State and playing Montana State in the playoffs. What kind of impression did you get of Montana State at that time that kind of stuck with you and made you realize that this might be a place that you want to be in the future?
Well, it was twofold. Certainly a very good team. Montana State had won the Big Sky that year, and we certainly had our hands full. So a lot of talent. It's a very competitive game that we ended up finding a way to win. But playing out here, that was really the thing from where can this program go? Where is this program at from a support perspective? And it was a cold December day, but the crowd was rocking, and I still vividly remember kind of the quarter break between the third and fourth, and it was a really close game at that time. We were maybe behind, and you just kind of, sometimes the coach, you're like, how in the world are we going to get this done? It was a daunting team. It was a daunting environment that we were in, and that always stuck with me. We were fortunate the next 3 years through the FCS playoffs where we didn't have to go on the road, but you get a sense for those programs as you play more cross-country games, whether it's playoffs or non-conferences. Where is there real live support? Where is that crowd just electric? And Montana State was, at the top of the list after that game in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that really sets Bozeman apart is that community and that support that you're talking about. Aside from that, what else would you say made Montana State the right fit for you?
Well, going to Wyoming and having been there the last 7 years, my family and I really gained an appreciation for this part of the country. And in fact, I know my wife has said often, in this coaching profession, you don't necessarily control where you can go, but she said, I don't know if we could move out of the mountains, and that might come someday. But fortunately with this move, we're staying in the mountains and can enjoy all that Bozeman and the Big Sky, Yellowstone area has to offer, and certainly the state of Montana. I think the other thing, as you start investigating a little bit more, you're learning about the school, learning about the growth of this university, in particular last decade, the quality of the education our young men can receive, the investment being made, with the new facility. It's clear that, Montana State is clearly on track to continue building and not living in a world of complacency. I think that facility in the end zone will be a game changer for us. And, hopefully we're not done as far as the vision and what we can do to enhance our program. So, you couple that with the leadership and getting to know President Cruzado, Leon Costello. It's a top-down vision that we have here, and it was clear to see that in a pretty short time through the interview process and me just figuring out whether this was the right job or not.
Now, you mentioned that word building, and obviously the past 11 months, almost a year now, have been a very difficult time for your team. What would you say are some of the conversations that you're having with them initially, and what has it been like trying to connect with them during this time?
I think the first thing was to make it clear this is not a rebuilding project. This is not a reclamation project. Obviously, in 19, they made the semifinals, and Coach Chota done a tremendous job in building this program up. And I recognize that, his approach and how he saw the game of football being played, how you win football games, is very similar to mine. So I wanted to make it clear to those guys that while we might put our own stamp on it, this isn't like we're starting from scratch. And trust us, and we certainly have to earn trust. We have to build trust through this time that we're going through right now. But our aim is to kind of pick up where they left off in 19, not start over. And I think they, in a couple of weeks' time, have really started to, they're on board without a question, but starting to gain that trust is being built. And we have, new coordinators on both sides of the ball. And I think both of those guys have been so impressed by the welcoming nature. When there's coaching changes, there's typically some resistance, and I haven't felt that whatsoever.
You're talking about some of those coaching changes right now. Do you feel that the balance of having some, continuity with returning staff as well as the new staff that you're bringing on is really going to position the Bobcats for success? And then do you feel like you'll get less resistance maybe from the roster that you have there?
Well, I think that, coming into this situation, continuity was a goal, but not just have continuity for continuity's sake, have continuity because ultimately I would believe that those men that I would retain would have our best interests at heart moving forward. First of all, are they good men? Do they, what I really kind of tested them on is how invested in our players were they? How invested in this program are they? And I felt that to a man, there was a great investment. Love their players, know their players inside out, love this place. And then certainly getting a sense for what kind of coaches they were, teach me something. And I thought they were all very good teachers as well. And I had intended on making some changes. There was a couple openings anyways to be able to do some things. And so felt really good about the guys that we ultimately retained. And then the guys that I'm bringing in, I have familiarity with. So it's this blend of who I've been around, how I see it with what they've done here. And I think, it was important that, to get those guys on the same page. And we're in the midst of doing that. But it's clear that everybody's on board. And I think because of that, our players are entirely on board.
Now, you talk about the similarity that you and Coach Choate have when you view the game of football, which is interesting because he was more of a defensive-minded guy, or more of an offensive-minded guy. You also talk about putting your own stamp there on the program there. What does that look like? What is your vision for Bobcat football?
Well, I think to the first part of your statement there, offense, defense coaches, I think, my view, and I think his view, is that you're playing complementary football. So from whatever direction you're coming at that, you're playing offense and defense that certainly works together. So you're playing the field position game. You're really valuing possessions. You're really valuing the ability to both run the football and stop the run. And then, the special teams aspect has to be a game changer. So I think generally speaking, that's what I refer to there. I think as far as, my own stamp, our own stamp, I think it's just the ability to take it a little bit further. I think, it's been positioned in a very good place. And what can we do from our experiences, in particular, my experiences both at Wyoming and North Dakota State, to continue to push, so it'll probably be really subtle things that to the outside world, it might not be this grandiose change, but on a day-to-day basis, really, and it's still learning about what they've done, and then being able to blend what I've been a part of, what our coaches that are coming in have been a part of. So it's not that this is fell swope change in any which way, but it's just continuing to do everything we can to make it better. I think that's the desire for all of us is not to be content with just trips to the playoffs. It's really be getting to the playoffs and challenging, and ultimately winning a national championship is the goal.
Well, I look forward to seeing how you build upon the success that has very much been there in Bozeman. Now, you mentioned a word that I really liked, blend, and talking about your experiences at Wyoming and North Dakota State as a coordinator and as an assistant. How are you blending those experiences that you've had now with having your own program as a head coach? What would you say what are you looking forward to being able to do from those experiences and now this new one that you have?
I think the biggest thing, you're drawing on the FCS experience that we had at NDSU, and ultimately getting that program our last 3 years to the top of the mountain. And it wasn't just a snap of the fingers that got it there. There was a lot put into that, from that 2004 to 2010 stretch, where I think we learned how to compete at this level, and how to get to the top, and then ultimately to stay at the top. So there's no easy tricks there. It's hard work. It's relentless pursuit of a goal. I think so. It's kind of taken that at the FCS model, when you do have 63 scholarships for 85 guys. I certainly understand that inside and out. So then the blend becomes, okay, what did Wyoming do for me? It's certainly, we competed at a higher level, but we really competed in a similar footprint of the country that the Big Sky is in, the Mountain West Big Sky. There's a lot of overlap. So recruiting within that region was the biggest thing I would probably take from that. Recruiting kids from the West Coast to come to, let's call this the mountain area, the Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Rocky Mountains, I should probably say, but just understanding what kind of kids from those areas can really thrive in this region, what kids might not, and be able to be as streamlined from a recruiting perspective as you can. So I think the blend of the two worlds I've been a part of, couldn't be more appropriate any other place.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. And going back to something that you said earlier that I'd love to touch on, switching gears a bit, you talked about Yellowstone and just being in the mountains. What would you say is your favorite mountain activity?
I grew up in the Red River Valley, which is flatlands, far away from any kind of real skiing. And in fact, Red Lodge, Big Skies is probably as close as it would come, which that's a pretty good trek. So I didn't make those trips when I was a youngster. So I think from a winter perspective, it's certainly skiing. And we had a few places pretty close to us down in Laramie and obviously with Big Sky and Bridger Bowl being right here, look to continue that. I think our families really enjoyed that side of things and certainly hiking in the summer, but I would say the winter aspect of skiing is probably the biggest thing.
Definitely a lot to do in the mountains.
Yes,
That's
sure.
a wonderful thing. Now, you talk about where you're from. You're from a small town. I looked up Buxton, North Dakota, and I see they have a population of 416. So small town.
It's pretty liberal too.
Small town, and then you grew up the son of a football coach. So how would you say that influenced your love for the game of football and your ultimate decision to go into coaching?
Well, from as far back as I can remember, I was tugged out to practice every day, and I wasn't drugged. I wanted to go. So, I mean, that's 4 or 5 years old, going to all the practices, being on the sideline for games, ultimately becoming a ball boy and a manager, and then an opportunity to play for my dad in high school. I think sports were a huge part of my upbringing. And it wasn't just football, it was basketball and baseball, and, trips down to the Twin Cities for Twins games, for Vikings games, things of that nature. And I think I knew that if I could be involved with sports somehow, I wanted to. And I think as I then played college football, it kind of sorted out for me through those first 3 years that coaching college football would be a tremendous opportunity because while you do teach, you're about football and recruiting. And I kind of fell in love with all the things that go into it. And I was really fortunate to get a GA job right out of playing. I had really no idea how fortunate I was, but becoming a head coach ultimately is something probably I figured out, maybe through my first 10 years, towards the latter part. Maybe by the time I was, in my younger 30s, you start to coordinate and you know that there's maybe another step beyond that, and not being impatient with it. Not getting a head coach job just to get a head coach job, but really trying to, to be in position to go after the right one. And, that's what this opportunity presented for me. So yeah, going back to, I don't know, again, as far as I can remember, this all makes sense for me, and my dad has been a tremendous influence on me all the way through, and will continue to be. He'll be out, him and my mom will be out here as much as they can, and he'll want to know all the inner workings and be able to support me in any which way he can.
Oh, I'm sure that's very, very special. And again, congratulations on this position. I mean, I know that there's so much hard work that goes into reaching this point. So congratulations. And then we'll end on this one last question. What excites you most about getting to coach in the Big Sky?
Well, it's a very competitive conference. First off, you stretch a pretty big span of the country, a lot of different locales. I got a chance to get on the Zoom with all the head coaches, a lot of great head coaches. So I know as we had an opportunity while we're at NDSU and even at Wyoming to play several Big Sky opponents. My familiarity is is a little bit removed, just with even who's coaching. But I know, anytime we've crossed paths, it's, football is a priority in this league. Success at the national level, while NDSU's kind of cornered the market lately, I think it's attainable in this league. And I think this league then, with the competition week in, week out, should put you in a position where you can compete with the best on the national stage.
Thank you so much. Again, congratulations on your new title that you've got there. And I look forward to seeing what you continue to build upon there in Bozeman.
I appreciate it, and appreciate you having me on, and go Cats.